Now let's say you have a motorcycle like this. It is a 1985 VT500C Honda Shadow. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but if you're like me, you've probably reached a point where you enjoy the aspects of the bike. You like the cornering abilities, but you want something that stops better, is quicker from the light, a lot more stable and has more power on the highway, and handles just as well, if not even better and more sharp on those back roads. Well, perhaps it's time to stop looking in the land of the rising sun, and it's about time to start looking in the land that birthed Enzo Ferrari. Originally conceptualized by two veteran Corpo Aeronautico Militare World War I pilots, Giorgio Parodi and Giovanni Raveri, along with their plane mechanic Carlo Guzzi, Moto Guzzi was founded in the country of Italy on March 15, 1921 in Genoa, after Raveri was killed in an aircraft accident only a few days after the end of the war. Actually, the brand emblem, an eagle with its wings spread far and wide, was a way for Parodi and Guzzi to honor Raveri as a pilot and a dear friend. Moto Guzzi also has the distinction of being the oldest European motorcycle brand to be continuously in production, which means that by the time this video has been uploaded, Moto Guzzi will have been in production for just shy of 102 years. This model is a 2000 V11 Jackal, one of Moto Guzzi's entries into the sport cruiser market. The Jackal is about as serious about its performance as Kirito is about clearing all 100 floors of Aincrad. For starters, the Jackal has a Brembo 4-piston double-action caliper in the front, housing a 12.6-inch cross-drilled rotor paired with a Brembo 2-piston double-action caliper in the rear, housing an 11.1-inch cross-drilled rotor. Power is provided by a naturally aspirated, air-cooled 90-degree 1064cc V-twin, producing 74 horsepower at 6400 RPM and 69.3 foot-pounds of torque at 5000 RPM, which has made it to a 5-speed sequential gearbox utilizing a wet clutch and a shaft final drive. Moto Guzzi claims a dry weight of 542 pounds, which means that with fluids, I'd estimate the weight to be roughly around 600 pounds. Nevertheless, coupled with that 74 horsepower on tap, the Jackal has roughly the same power to weight ratio as a 2021 Camaro SS. A noticeable characteristic of any Guzzi bike is the orientation of the engine. It sits with the crankshaft in line with the frame, causing the two valve covers to stick out on each side of the bike. It's quite the unusual look, and makes identifying a Guzzi in the wild about as easy as identifying Darth Vader amidst a platoon of stormtroopers. It creates a certain stylistic swagger, the likes of which most modern rappers will never be able to understand or replicate. Despite this specimen being 23 years old, it hasn't lost any of its charm. So, enough from me, let's speak to the gentleman that holds on to the keys. I'm here with my buddy Sho. Sho, it has been quite a while since you've been on the channel.
Definitely has. Thanks for having me again.
Of course.
It's definitely been a while since my Shadow.
Now, speaking of the Shadow, this is clearly not a Honda Shadow.
No, not at all. Not at all.
This is your second bike then, correct?
This is actually my third bike.
Your third bike, okay.
Yep, so I had, as you know, previously I've had my Honda Shadow 600, my apologies. And then I moved up to Suzuki Boulevard M50.
Okay.
Which was definitely nice until I got into my accident back in September. Probably about 6 months later, once it was springtime again, I picked this bike up on Facebook.
Facebook Marketplace, how much did it run you?
About 1,800.
1,800, how many miles were on it when you got it?
It's got 12,000, so I probably got it around 10,500, somewhere around there.
And that's 1,800, and that's pretty good. So, how does this feel compared to your past two bikes? Because you said this is your third bike. Obviously, like, the Shadow was a much smaller bike, being a 600.
Definitely.
And then I didn't know you had the Boulevard. Tell us a little bit about that one first.
So, my Boulevard that I had, so it's an M50, so it's 50 cubic inches. So
okay.
I think it's 800 cc's.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. So it had plenty of power. One thing that I would say I liked that over like my Honda Shadow was definitely like it was a bigger ride.
Okay.
And I think I had floorboards and stuff, so like I think that definitely made the nice ride like a lot more comfortable. And the thing that I like probably absolutely number one about that bike and even this bike is the fact that it's fuel injected.
Okay, yeah.
Over carbureted, yeah. Definitely.
I still ride my Gen 1 shell. The carburetors are very annoying, especially on cold mornings. But
yeah.
So
yeah.
With this bike being an 1100cc, how stable would you say it is on the highway, say compared to the Boulevard and the Shadow?
Super stable. Actually, I was even surprised. I have no issues. I mean, even on the way here, it was pretty windy.
Okay.
And you know, it took it like a champ. It even takes corners way better than like a Harley or most other, especially nowadays modern lower cruisers do.
Okay.
Yeah.
How, if you don't mind me asking, so how long exactly have you had this bike? You said about 6 months or something.
Yeah, give or take, probably about almost 5 months now.
Okay.
Yep.
So what does riding this motorcycle do for you then? How does it make you feel?
Good. Definitely. It's definitely the biggest bike I've had. So
okay.
It puts down the power that I want
nice
when I want it. And with this bike, I feel like no matter what gear I'm in, I constantly have power.
Just power all throughout the rev range.
Yep.
So then, with that being said, then it's basically like a Boulevard cruiser, kind of like it's not the type of bike that you'd want to take, say like on some extremely twisty back roads, but once you get like up to speed, say like on the highway, for example, it's just like kind of laid back and relaxed.
Actually, this thing does great.
Okay.
Great in canyons. I think what it is like, it's just like the seat being higher.
Okay.
I have perfect ground clearance.
Okay.
Even in tight corners.
So how does it tight the corners compared to your past two bikes?
Probably like halfway through the corner I was taking with this bike, I would have already scraped my pegs.
Okay.
On my other ones.
Okay. Now, the last question I do have is, so this is your third bike. So if someone was looking to buy one of these bikes, how much experience would you recommend they have? Because it's a bit big. It's a bit on the heavier side, right?
I would say, it's definitely on the heavier side, but I would say probably just intermediate.
Okay.
Maybe a second bike.
Okay.
Second bike, third bike.
I can see that.
It's probably perfect. Yeah, because I know especially when I first got this bike, I have a bad habit of just kind of like playing with the clutch. You know, in corners, at red lights, trying to wait.
I gotcha.
So I definitely have to keep in mind, like, put it in neutral at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're basically warning me before I get on the saddle.
Safety first.
All right, man. Well, thanks for talking.
Thank you.
Let's get her out on the road and see how she rides. And so, after catching up with Sho and hearing his thoughts on the Jackal, it was time to prepare for the ride, and time to suit up. So, what you witnessed there was an expert rider skill that requires a million years of experience. So I'll tell you. It's called doing an incline start in third gear because you forgot to shift down. There you have it. Clearly, I am an expert MotoGP rider. After being unceremoniously scolded by a certain redhead tsundere mecha pilot, I was finally able to get the Moto Guzzi rolling. Let's get something out of the way first, and that's the fact that when I first laid eyes on this bike, I immediately assumed that it was in the touring class, but man oh man, how wrong I was to make that assumption. Thinking that the Jackal is a comfortable long-distance touring bike because it has a windshield and hardcover saddlebags, or in this case, a singular hardcover saddlebag, is like thinking that Gundam Seed is aimed at children because it's animated and brightly colored. First and foremost, this is not a comfortable motorcycle. Perhaps it's the factory saddle, or the widespread ergonomics, or perhaps maybe it's even just me, but I'll be blunt. The 2 some odd hours of riding this motorcycle around town were not very nice to my nuts. I'm not quite sure what it is, but when you've mounted the saddle, it's very apparent that there's not a lot of room to maneuver where the sun don't shine. The Jackal does not absorb bumps and road imperfections. Rather, it throws them at Mach 1 into the very bones of the rider in a manner that is so ill that Obi-Wan himself claims that it's so uncivilized. The staunch ride and not so subtle vibrations might even be a turn-off for some. However, toss the Guzzi into the nearest corner and twist the throttle, and it becomes very apparent what this bike was designed to do. I assume that most of you are familiar with the old adage, never judge a book by its cover, correct? Well, good, because this is a perfect case in point. You'd think that a motorcycle with a 93.7-inch length would be hesitant to rotate, but it's quite the opposite. There's loads of grip available, and thanks to the foot pegs being as tall off the ground as Shaquille O'Neal, there's plenty of lean angle that taunts you into going faster. And remember those Brembos? Those aren't for show. Tap the brake lever or pedal, and the bike will stop hard enough to throw you into the saddle and into the molten rivers of Mustafar. Whereas most Guzzis used a link braking system, the Jackal uses an individual system, so this is something to keep in mind. You see, the more I started to push the Guzzi to its handling limits, the more the bike started to make sense. This is a bike that's serious about being ridden hard. It's not a bike for posers, because the slower you ride it, the worse it gets. The transmission doesn't like being shifted too slow or too fast. It needs to be just right. Get it wrong, and the Jackal happily throws a false neutral into your face. You see, the Jackal will never be as comfortable as a Harley-Davidson Road King, nor will it ever be as reliable as a Honda Shadow 1100. But I don't care. Call it hypocrisy, but the longer I stayed on, the more I began to truly want one. As I continued to fuss and kick through the gears and roll on the throttle entering the open straights, I realized that you don't force the Jackal to ride in the way that you want. The Jackal teaches you how it's supposed to be ridden. And when you finally learn how to communicate with it, it becomes quite the exhilarating experience, because in that very moment, I no longer had to focus on the pointless stressors of the world. I only had to listen to the bike, focus on the road ahead, and honestly, that's all an enthusiast could truly ask for. But should you actually buy one? First and foremost, it's important to remember that this bike is over 2 decades old, and a quick stroll through some old forums seems to highlight some crowd control issues with the Guzzis that were powered by the V11 engine, namely fluid leaks. Remember, this is a 2-decade-old motorcycle, so if you find one, you need to make sure that it has been kept in good running order. You may find minor things such as a cracked headlight housing or a missing luggage case like on Sho's bike, but these are minor and easily rectified. So, if I were looking for one, I'd make sure there are no oil or trans leaks and then go from there. The second issue is that Guzzis, at least here in Michigan, tend to be a rarity, and after doing a quick search it seems there is only one motorcycle dealer that appears to specialize in Guzzis, as well as some other brands that are rare here in the States. Couple that with it being a bit of a pain waiting on parts for a bike this old, and I can easily see how that would turn some people away. However, the used price is the most tempting aspect of this bike. The Jackal has not held its resale value and can be found for dirt cheap. For example, Sho says he paid roughly $1,800 for his, and with a quick search I can easily believe it. An absolute pristine model will probably run roughly $5 to $6 grand, but if you're okay with small blemishes and easy fixes, you can find these bikes for under $3, and when you consider how much bike you get for the money, it's an absolute crime at how much of a steal these are. So to finalize, here's what I'll say. If you're the kind of rider that wants a larger, stable bike that can tear up a twisty back road with good power, and you have no issues wrenching in your own garage or driveway, then yes, these are an absolute bargain. If you're a new rider, or someone who isn't perhaps as mechanically inclined and you want something more reliable, something that's more comfortable and easy to handle, then perhaps this isn't the bike for you. All in all, if you find yourself foaming at the mouth over a V11 Jackal, simply take it for a test ride and see if it's something that suits you.
Boy. Yeah, it's good. Did I not say that was about to happen? As soon as I pulled out, it was like, I'm gonna head out. All right.
It's rolling. Okay. Take one. How's the shot look? All good.
Looks good.
Take one. Moto Guzzi v11 Jackal review interview portion and go. Well, this is my buddy Sho. Sho, it has been a very long time. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing alright. This is not the Honda Shadow.
Yeah, this is definitely not the Honda Shadow I had last time I was on the YouTube channel.
Hey, wait, hold on one second. Manuel, can you take your keys out of your shirt?
Whoa, Shimata! You want me to just leave them there? Actually, you know what? How
Toss them
about
over
I
here.
take them off and then like button up the holes in my shirt? How about that?
That's how you want the sex to feel.
You know,
the lady.
It
Just
depends
like-
on how casual you want to
Well, hello guys.
be. By the way, it's been rolling this whole time.
Okay.
Perfect.
You know what?
We can run take two. We can run take two. This is like the first take two interview, I think.
I know Dan and I did quite a few times. Sean.
Yeah, it's down there probably like 4 or 5 Ks.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Yo, what's going on? As per usual, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, leave a comment, like, and subscribe. If you didn't like the video, I appreciate you putting up with me for so long. Leave a dislike, tell me what you don't like about it. You know, special thanks to my buddy Sho for letting me film his bike. Sho, Dan, and Zach for helping out with the shoots on this one. Really cool shots that we got. Yeah, and also want to say thanks to the viewers. Looks like we're just under 300 subs. So yeah, like I said, I'm trying to do 1 upload a month, and just keep it going. But yeah, I guess that depends on if I can keep finding some interesting cars and bikes to film. Yeah, I don't know. I think I could go pretty far with this. I mean, this combined with, you know, actually learning how to work on cars in the shop and stuff, I think it's kind of giving me, like, something to focus on, so kind of like tunnel vision, I guess. But, yeah. Yeah, so as per usual, I'm going to preview the next vehicle. It is a car. It's also the first classic on the channel. And again, it's another car that's actually pretty rare, and I'm surprised that my buddy got his hands on one. But, yeah. I'll go ahead, show you guys what it is. See you in the next one. About to go get this Thai food as well, so you know I'm about to chow down. But yeah, y'all take it easy.
A little different than all the rest. I'm quite old-fashioned where I had sometimes played chess. And when I'm out, I'm looking for that vintage fling. But all complexions that I adore, so hard to find, these seem impossible to score. So I dream on to someday find that vintage love. I kept on looking, but everyone's such a bore.
That's really an interesting color. I didn't know it was red.